Hi artists, Dr. Montserrat Andres here. The next series that you all have been requesting is for hip flexor quad tightness. So whether you're a musician, if you're a drummer, if you're a writer, if you're an illustrator, if you work on ceramics, it seems like a lot of you are spending much of your time sitting and are feeling a lot of tightness in your quads and hip flexors. So this next series will be to help you stretch and also do some soft tissue work on yourself. But as always, remember the key is going to be strengthening after you do all of that. So I hope this is helpful. Leave me any comments or suggestions. I'd love to hear how it's working for you. Okay, artists. So now that we've done some foam rolling in the quads and the glutes and the hips, there's a little spot right here that often is tough to get with a foam roller. So if you use a lacrosse ball and put it in the area where your pocket would be if you were putting your hand into your pocket, and right in that spot you roll around, you'll usually find a lot of tenderness. Associated especially after sitting. So you can roll forward and back, you can go up and down, or you can just lean into the wall and let the tissue soften around the ball. All right, artists, so we're going to start doing some foam rolling for our hip flexors and quads. So we're going to start with the quads. Grab your foam roller, lay over it, give yourself some support with your arms, and just start rolling. You're looking for any areas that are tight and tender, and you want to make sure that you're allowing for the tissue to soften above the roller. So if you need to just pause and breathe over that area, that's totally fine. If adding movement helps, that's really great too. So you can really do whatever helps along the whole front part of the quad to help normalize that tissue. All right, artists, let's foam roll your glute medius, this area on the side of your hip. So if you place your hands on your hip and you can feel the bone there, you want to be right below that into the soft, meaty part of the hip. So place your hand down and support yourself well here. Don't let your shoulder collapse. Really push down into the floor to protect your shoulder. And then just use the leverage from your legs to roll on your hip here. You can roll a little bit up to get the fibers closer to the back, or a little bit forward to get the fibers that are more in front. You can pause and just breathe over the area, or you can do little micro rolling depending on what feels the most helpful. Okay, it's time to now foam roll the glutes. So you're gonna stabilize your foam roller, please don't slip. Support yourself and place yourself on top of the roller with your hip. The leg that you're rolling, or the hip that you're rolling, place that leg across the top of the other one. And then you can just stay there and breathe and let the tissue relax over the foam roller. Or you can start to roll to help normalize the tissue. You can shift a little bit to the right or to the left so you can get different muscle fibers. And usually I find that in this part of the hip, smaller movements are better so that you don't slide off the roller. All right, artists, let's stretch some hip flexors. So you've been sitting a really long time. This area of your body can sometimes feel like you can't fully extend afterwards. And so find yourself in a kneeling position with your knee, your hip, and your shoulder in a line. I'm using my handy spine here to stabilize me. And you want to be pulling the front part of the pelvis up towards the ceiling and the tailbone down to the floor, and then release. And it's almost like you're trying to turn the pelvis up and the back of the pelvis down. And you do that multiple times. You continue to breathe through each one to make sure that you're not holding your breath. And you want to feel the focus of the stretch here in the front. After doing a few repetitions there, then I hold, take a few deep breaths so that I can really feel the front part of my leg stretching and the back part of my leg engaging and pulling my hip down. All right, artists, we're going to use a chair to help us stretch the quads. sometimes if the quads have a lot of tension, it's hard to get them even into a position to stretch. So if you use a chair, bring your leg and snug it up to the back of the chair, and then lean forward until you start to feel a stretch here in the quads. You don't want to let your hip go behind you. You want to keep the pubic bone going up to the ceiling and the tailbone going down, and this will help to focus the stretch into that front part of the hip. You can stay there and breathe to help relax the tissue and get a really nice quad stretch. All right, artists, this next movement is going to be a combination, strengthening for the hamstrings and the glutes, stretching for the quads and the hip flexors. So in a kneeling position, keep your trunk as one solid piece and raise up so that you end up in a straight line from your knee, your hip, and your shoulder. You don't want to end up crooked with your hip behind you. You want to push up, and then here, pull the tailbone up, pull the tailbone down and the pubic bone up so that you are feeling a big stretch in the quads and strengthening in the glutes. You'll do multiple sets of this, and then on the last one, hold so that you really feel the stretch in the front and the contraction in the back.